You're watching Drake Wing Gaming. Enjoy the video. Hello everyone, Nary here from Drake Wing Gaming. Some of you know me on Twitter, The Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming at you with a Let's Play episode of The Echo, Jenna's Path. So, the last place we left off, we had just left the, not the apartment, the hotel room, because Chase was taking a shower, and he was thinking about Jenna, and he woke everyone up, and, well, you can guess the rest. But anyway, guys, we're out with a walk now with Jenna, looking for Carl. Let's see how that goes, shall we? Very interested to see how the relationship between these two develops further. Anyway, guys, sit back and enjoy. Alarm chant is now engaged, and let's jump right into it. Jenna steps up beside me, hands on her hips as she looks where I'm now pointing. She exhales with some exasperation before responding. Yeah. Looks like a wren. How can you tell? As far as I know, Jenna was never much into nature or animals. Wrens are the really fat ones, you know, rotund. She pushes her small hands together, making a circle to emphasize the roundness. Her eyes must be better than mine, because I can only just barely make out the beak. I look back at Jenna, and she's still staring up at the tree. Something about the whole scene of it gives me this strange twinge of nostalgia. Us wandering aimlessly around Echo with nowhere to go and nothing to do, and how we thought that feeling would last forever. Is it just me, or is this conversation kind of familiar? Not the bird, I mean. You and I walking around, talking about stupid things Leo was doing? Yeah, that's not too out of the ordinary. She smiles some, and I can't help but smile back. Yeah, that, and God, do you remember showing me those Yowie comics you got from the mall? Oh, yes, I hid them under a rock like half a mile from my house. I had to fight a scorpion to get you the Cuckoo Tanuki eye issues. Jenna lets out an amused noise, shaking her head. While my relationships with the rest of the group, besides Leo, had mainly stayed the same after they found out I liked guys, Jenna and I actually grew more close after the fact. Despite not really being too into anime, talking to her about manga and the dumb romance stuff in them was always kind of fun. My hero, eh? I sort of remember you discussing the differences between yaoi and bara. You talking just now kind of reminded me of that. Saying those two words out loud feels weird. Boys love and man's love, right? I do remember that, Chase. I'm a little surprised you do. She says this with a forced, teasing tone to her voice for some reason. I cant my head curiously toward her. Why wouldn't I? I really enjoyed all that. Talking with you about it, I mean. Truly? I suppose I thought that I was only being humored for my special interest topics that the rest of you weren't not even remotely as interested in. It's a little creepy now that I think about it in context. I waved dismissively. No? I mean, you weren't like a fan Yoshi or anything. Hell, you should have seen all that sort of yaoi junk Leo kept on his computer. Fujoshi and... Really? Sure, whatever. Yeah, he was pretty into the more porny stuff. Jenna laughed some. Most yaoi's written by women who've never met a gay guy before, and is full of gender-imprinted uksime tropes and dubious consent. Hey, sometimes that's hot. I'm surprised the words leave my mouth, and I immediately feel a burn around the edges of my ears. Jenna looks at me. I can't quite read her expression now in the darkness, though I'm not about to shine the flashlight on her. Yeah, that's part of why we read it. As long as it's understood as fantasy, not normalcy. Of course. I nod. But to take this back to reality for a second, no one should be forcing themselves on you like that, no matter what they see in porn or how long they've known you. Right. I appreciate the concern. I nod again at Jenna, who returns to scanning the nearby underbrush. However, I can't help but feel at least a little like I'm being treated like some battered victim here. Maybe I'm just too numb these days to feel like I probably should. The road turns back into chipped asphalt as we get closer to the old rail yard. The tracks to which run directly behind Leo and Duke's backyards, not that they'd seen any use in decades. Most of the houses down the road are newer, and the county even installed a streetlight after an old badger lady got hit by a car 5 years ago. That being said, most of the residences stand vacant now in various states of disrepair. As we round a bend, I spot Leo's house down the way. It's a little ranch-style house with a big backyard, right off a dirt road leading from the street. It used to be his family's home before they moved out. No cop cars parked out front or anything, not that I really expected there to be. Jenna slows for a moment, peering over her shoulder. Oh, hello there, thumbnail. Her senses are better than mine, so I lessen my pace as well, trying to listen carefully. It's dead silent beyond the usual desert ambience, the rustle of breeze-swept trees, chirping crickets, and tweets from local night birds. I turn back to look at her. What? She frowns to herself. Nothing. Wait, did you hear something? She shakes her head, rubbing her wrist as she refocuses her attention back on me. No, just some unexpected nostalgia. I smile some, glad I'm not the only one. No? What for? I can't really place it. It's just a feeling, almost sort of like what people call deja vu. I've been in this place before, I run the streets, and I know that it's my time to go. Oh my god. Ah. I nod sagely, pretending to understand. She watches me for a moment, as if studying my features for something deeper. I watch hers as well, the golden glow of the streetlight giving her fur a pale radiance, blowing her features into something warm and familiar. Her bushy tail sways, and I can see the light plumes of desert dust scatter away on the asphalt beneath. They dissipate into the air like smoke from a cigarette. When we were younger, we had many nights like this, walking to and from Leo's place. Most of the time we'd be chatting about video games we'd been playing or some manga that Jenna had gotten into. Looking back, I could tell she savored those times. The fleeting moments she had away from home, where she could express her passions without fear of judgment or ridicule. Well, occasionally there'd be ridicule, but of the good faith sort, I think. Whenever she criticized some dumb thing I said, or weird-ass phase I was going through, it never felt like she thought lesser of me. She suffered through my late 2000s frosted tip highlight scene phase, after all. She was just... I'm just trying to imagine Chase with frosted tips, oh my god. She was just trying to encourage me to be a better person. Those long walks and talks we had were like ways to gauge our own small-town-induced insanity. It was during those times I felt more secure in myself than I ever did elsewhere. But it's also when we understood we truly didn't really belong here. I can't help but wonder if that's what she's thinking of now. She smiles once, then picks up the pace again. I step up and match her speed. I hope Duke still works late shifts. I don't want to go see Duke. I recall him being quite nocturnal when we were growing up. He works at the Blue Diamond Casino by the reservation, right? Mm-hmm, as far as I remember. I used to think that only native people could get jobs there. I know they try to keep it that way, but many of the locals in the res lack the skill sets and training for some of the jobs. Hence the outsourcing. I think Duke works, or at least worked, as a security technician. Huh, I guess I didn't know him that well. Me neither, but he was friends with my father. I can see Duke's house now, a large manufactured home that's raised up like 3 feet off the ground. I think Flynn told me once they made him raise it up since it sat in the flood zone for the nearby wash. Said wash pretty much never had water in it, except for one particular monsoon season where a flash flood sent white water currents down it. It all drains out into Lake Emma. It's difficult to see in the dark, but the house looks to be a bit of a sorry state. The yard is overgrown with tall weeds. There's a bunch of stripped bicycle parts and other electronic components strewn about. Jenna sees it too and lets out an audible hum, as if acknowledging some confirmed suspicion. I'm about to ask her what's up when she speaks again. You know, my grandma never left the reservation, no matter how bad it got down there. I used to visit her a lot before she got sick. Oh? There's something about the tone in her voice that makes me think I should stop walking. I turn around and focus on her. I don't believe any of you guys ever met her. She was probably the most down-to-earth member of my family. Despite genuinely believing in a lot of the old spiritual aspects of the Meseta culture. Like rain dances? Jenna gives me a look that makes me immediately regret speaking, my tail curling instinctively. You're thinking of the Pescawa tribe. They're the ones that did the dancing around the bonfire bit that gets attributed to every Native American native culture for some reason. Right. My bad. I give her a little thumbs up of understanding. I must look especially scorned because Jenna begins to snicker a little. She reaches over, pushing my thumb down and squeezing my fist. Her grasp is incredibly soft, and I feel myself longing for it again as she lets go. Hey, you're a college-educated journalist now. You can't get away with the cute ignorance anymore. I've got one more year left of that, actually, I say with a faux defensive tone. I guess I should hold on to staying cute as long as I can. Oh, that's easy, Chase. All you have to do is lose the goatee. Well, oh, come on! I reach up and grab the dyed piece of facial scruff, and a bubbling sense of self-consciousness burns up my cheeks. Jenna laughs some more. I'm just kidding. I know Leo isn't a fan of it, though. He told me as much. I let out a bit of a defeated noise. For some reason, that also kind of stings. Jenna waves dismissively, trying to get back to what she was saying. She seems serious about getting what she has to say off her chest. Anyway, Grandma had all this ham radio equipment in her house. She started collecting it after Grandpa died, which was long before I was born. She was really into technology and broadcasting, which admittedly was an oddball contrast from her more spiritual, tradition-based outlook on life. She crosses her arms, taking a glance inside an old parked pickup truck that's missing its plates on the side of the road. I shine my phone's flashlight inside, but there's just a bunch of bags of what looks like farming stuff, mainly fertilizer. I remember thinking it was neat. She used to sit on her porch with her quilting gear and talk on the radio to passing truckers. Wow, really? I start to picture an old native woman who looks like Jenna, knitting needles in one paw and a radio mic in the other. Yeah, her radio had pretty good range. She did this for years, got kind of a reputation because of it. Sweetheart of Echo Valley or something along those lines. Oh! She was like, flirting with them? Jenna smirks, lightly shrugging her shoulders. Well, I suppose there was probably some of that. I remember Adam mentioning that occasionally she would find flowers in her post box, sometimes even letters. Grandma was pretty shy, actually, and didn't like how she looked. When she was born, her ears and parts of her scalp were malformed. It was at some underfunded tribal clinic up north, so they weren't equipped to fix it. Didn't get the money for it later in life either. She brings her paws up to her own ears, running her fingers down to them to the base of her head fur. She always wanted to wear these big sun hats whenever we went somewhere, like she didn't feel right being seen. But over the radio, she would mainly just talk to those truck drivers, ask them about their day, about things that made them happy. And I remember hearing about this one particular time where she talked with a truck driver who had recently lost his wife in an accident. Naturally, he was very upset and was considering whether life was worth living anymore. So Grandma told him to pull over and come visit her. He was reluctant at first, but he did. Grandma got together all the other old neighbor ladies and rolled out this big ancient grill from the 60s. They baked a bunch of fry bread and cooked up a ton of tacos. She even went and personally got the ingredients to make some homemade cookies since, well, he mentioned he liked those over the radio. When he got there, she taught him how to make all the food himself. She was worried without a wife he wouldn't know how to cook something decent on his own. She also went around and introduced him to everyone, treated him like a guest of honor. He was this little rat guy, really meek. At first he was worried he was being awkward and was out of place, but they talked for hours and hours, way into the night. His wife and him had been together for 18 years, and she was an art teacher at an elementary school in Two Canyons. So before he left, she and him made a sand painting. A sand painting? I'm reluctant to interrupt, but I've never heard of that before. It's a painting in sand, usually done with pigments. What's interesting is they're not really art objects. They're for helping people heal, to become better. Once painted, the person who needs the healing would sit in the center of the painting. The energy and goodwill that was put into the painting was to help the person in need, healing spirits and that sort of thing. I know, nowadays you mainly see them framed up on roadside craft sales, but that's what they were originally for. So, Jenna trails off, and I look away. She clears her throat. She takes a slow breath, and it takes her just a second to continue. My parents weren't there at Grandma's funeral. It was at some public meeting building in Peyton for some reason. For my family, it was just Adam and I. Adam? Really? Yes, this was a long while ago, before he started changing. We were nearly a third of the way through the service when the rat guy shows up, and I have to ask Adam who he is. The only people there up to that point were us foxes. After that, I started noticing more non-foxes coming in. Some were literally wearing these stereotypical truckers' hats with the holy bits in the back. And of course, half the people there were really confused with who these guys were, like maybe they were at the wrong funeral? They just sat in the back, and then Adam went up to speak. She folds her arms tighter across her chest, smiling to herself as her gaze flicks upward. Adam stuttered his way through his speech, but at the end of it, he started inviting up the new arrivals in the back. A lot of them were fairly gruff-looking guys, you know. And one by one, they got up and started reading letters. She pauses again. Letters thanking her for being so kind, for giving them someone to talk to about their problems, or just being so witty and fun to speak to. The rat guy, God, I wish I remembered his name, went up last, and his letter addressed Grandma like she was still there with us. He talked about how he was doing, how tough things were after what happened. He mentioned his wife by name, about how losing someone so good and special can make it feel like the world has become so much darker. But how it's always important to remember that there are still good people out there, even if they're just someone who can lend an ear for a while. And it felt like he was actually talking to us about Grandma. I thought about that a lot when, Adam passed. About how maybe it wasn't just a chemical imbalance and perhaps he just needed someone to talk to. She keeps her arm still tight over her torso, though it looks more now like a self-bracing measure. A far cry from her usual standoffish posturing. I also thought about how you're so goddamn alone out here. She gestures with both arms to her surroundings. I peer down at myself, then back at Jenna. She lets out a little noise that sounds like a quick sigh before shaking her head. Not you specifically, but rather anyone stuck in this place. What is it with Echo and taking away all its good? She's looking at me now, but I might as well be a brick wall for how equipped I am to answer that question. It feels almost rhetorical in nature, something with so many reasons that you could apply. It becomes simply too much to try to put it into words. I sheepishly hold up an arm. Would it be too patronizing? Too much of the stereotypical guy thing to reach out to her now? It's a moment of vulnerability from someone who's cultivated a life's worth of being invulnerable. I suppose we've all got heavy shit under the surface. Jenna probably most of all. And while some of us sort of downplay it with jokes, self-deprecation, or lashing out at others, Jenna's always kept it under the said surface. Seeing this all brought to light feels like something raw, uncomfortable, something understood to be immovable being moved. I look past Jenna to the wash, like the desert flooding. I exhale, looking back down to her. I can feel my mind going blank like it did earlier. Her expression's indiscernible, but she's still looking at me. I was really fortunate growing up. I had a boyfriend I loved, a group of friends who supported me, and a family who gave a shit. And I'm not like the world's most mentally healthy person, you know? I see a completely alternate timeline where I'm just like the rest of those guys in Tetanus Alley, or worse. I have the back of my neck sheepishly. I'm not good at making those reassuring speeches. This is all the stuff I've admittedly thought about before. That rat guy was right. Having someone around who gives a damn means the world. And isolating yourself from said world isn't how you make yourself better. It's the opposite. And for keeping me sane, I do think I kind of have you to thank for that, in some part. My voice cracks, and I try to cover it with a cough. Smooth. Thank you, Chase. Jenna smiles lightly. That's actually rather beautiful. Has this been on your mind for a while? I shrug. Lately, at least. Well, I'd like to think that his and your sentiments are true. If we have time, I might stop by to see Jeremy. When I talked to him, he sounded like he wouldn't mind seeing you again. Jenna chuckles briefly. It's strange, isn't it? The notion of you talking now as adults. As kids, we were all so at odds over truly stupid things. I suppose I'm curious whether he's grown up as well. I guess we'll see. Jenna raises a brow. Maybe, I mean. All this being said, I'm truly not excited to go back and talk to him, or his friends. For Jenna's sake, I can grin and bear it, though. I guess I have to ask, what made you think of this? I mean, the story about your grandmother. Was it just talking about tech stuff in the reservation? Jenna ponders this question for a moment, looking a bit more like her usual self. However, there's still a slight unnerved tinge to her, like her tail has an extra bit of a bristle to it. I suppose that's what got me talking about her. Though I started thinking about this all earlier. Oh? Up ahead, the screen door on the side of Duke's house flings open. A familiar ash-colored figure peers out, attention focused on us. What are you two doing? He calls out to us, having to shout since we're nearly 3 properties down. At Pueblo, I'd cringe at the idea of someone shouting out this late in the neighborhood. However, most of these houses are long since abandoned. Jen and I exchange a look before making our way closer to respond. The lanky weasel is certainly looking rougher around the edges than I remember, the old man taking slow steps in his overgrown front yard. Of course, he's got his gun on him, his paw gingerly clutching it while the other brandishes a cigarette. Or at least, I think it's a cigarette. Real late for a stroll, he mumbles. Duke? Hi, good morning, it's Jenna. Is that Chase with you? I hold up my paw and wave. Hi. It is. Duke takes a drag from the fat cigarette, and I see some embers fling out as he taps the end. In my mind, I imagine one of those little specks of fire catching on the untrimmed grass beneath, setting everything ablaze. I knew it. What Leo's been saying is true. He was seeing shit as well. Confronted him about it, and he got a wild look in his eyes, pushed me to the dirt. But here you are, in the flesh and talking this time. I give him a befuddled look. What's he talking about? Well, Leo's going through a bit of a rough time, and that's certainly no excuse for the violence he imposed against you. However, we did see you at Carl's house, and you might have heard that he's gone missing. What good timing for your arrival then, Jasmine? It's Jenna now, but that's besides the point. His bloodshot eyes shift from me to her, and that makes me even more uneasy. Have you seen Carl since last night? Duke clicks his tongue, shaking his head more times than he really needs to. I don't think you're investigating the right mystery here. Jenna raises an eyebrow. He points a swollen pink finger in my direction, still looking at Jenna. The real question is, why has your friend here been snooping around our houses here for the past month? What? Jenna furrows her brow, a light sigh escaping from between her lips. And so it begins. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We learned more about Jenna this time. Very happy to learn more about Jenna and her grandmother and her past. And now we have walked right into Crazy Town. Alright, anyway guys, I'm going to save it right here. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to the next video. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!